Hi there everybody, welcome to this week's edition of The Verdict. We're going to go to Newbury this week. We will have a look at a race at Ayr as well and a couple of races from the Curragh. The performance at Ayr that I'm going to have a look at was a really sensational one according to the course track sectionals, and we've got a freakish performance at the Curragh for you as well. Let's start with Newbury last week. It was on the Friday. The going was soft to start the meeting. It got worse as we went through the day with some heavy showers hitting the track. Movie Maker taking the first, Serene Seraph and Boyfriend winners for the Richard Hannon team. Bracken's Laugh took the Washington Singer for Richard Hughes. Popmaster, we're going to have a look at that race in a moment or two. Flash Bardo and Concord winning yet again. He's had a tremendous season, that horse. We'll start with Movie Maker and then move on to Popmaster. I really liked what Movie Maker achieved. 1:15.78 over 6 furlongs, so a slow time, but all of the times were slow. And Movie Maker went off favourite for this at 9-4. Rabat was 100-30. And Von Bayer for the Brian Meehan team backed into 100-30 from 9-2. Assembly Call 11-2 and 9-1, and bigger the rest. But this was a very dominant display from Movie Maker. Stall 11 for Movie Maker. Von Bayer came from stall number 1, and the third home was Call Time, who came from stall number 2. Let's have a look and see how this race panned out. Course track sectionals are very revealing as far as this race is concerned. The first thing to note is that the winner is always prominent. This is a horse who was very green on his debut. He was too raw to do himself justice, but he's clearly learnt a lot from that and has probably come on a fair bit at home for Saeed bin Saror since that. This is not a strongly run race. He's towards the stand side, dictating quite steady fractions. His finishing speed percentage of 104.64 tells us that even in the very soft conditions, he was able to finish the race off quite quickly, 4.64% quicker in the final 3 furlongs than he was in the rest of the race. What does that tell us? Well, 1, he's got a turn of foot, and 2, that he was able to save petrol in the early part of the race. Just have a look at the horses in behind. There's all these horses in this sort of group here. They're all being scrubbed along already, so quite a few of them not really handling conditions. This fella did, and what he does in a moment is that he quickens, and no other horse in the race can quicken at all according to the cross track sectionals. The 5th furlong, 11.73. He's doing that now, and that takes him clear of his rivals. Towards the outside in the striped colours, Von Bayer looks very green under pressure, hanging, and he'll be better for the run, and we'll learn from this. But the winner is quite dominant. He's the only horse to dip under 12 seconds through the 5th furlong of this race, that penultimate furlong where he sealed the deal. It was a good effort from him. 12.5 in the last furlong. Well, you might think that's pretty slow, and it is really slow in the context of course track sectionals in general, but that's a function of conditions, and his final 3 furlongs were way better than any of his rivals. Quite a few of them floundering in the conditions, and the winner clearly an absolute class apart. He's got no entries going forward, but I think he could be pretty useful, this fella, and I think he may always be somewhat ground dependent because he handled this so well, and I think he might always be best with a bit of dig. He's by Invincible Spirit, and that sire's progeny do like a little bit of cut in the ground. Not a strong race, a reasonable time figure from the winner, but a taking turn of foot through 1 furlong to seal the deal here when no other horse was able to quicken. And I think it could be quite a useful type going forward, particularly when encountering similar conditions. He certainly has improved a ton from his debut. A nice winner for Kieran O'Neill. Well, from Movie Maker in the opening contest, let's now have a look at the listed Dubai Duty Free Cup Stakes over 7 furlongs. And Al Dari, running in conditions that really suit him, was the 8-11 favourite. He was dropping in grade. Biggles 4-1, 9-2 Al Mabir, and it was 12-1 Popmaster. Rodabalo 22-1. Same for the Wizard of Eye and American Kestrel, a 50-1 shot. And we had an odds-on favourite turned over here, and turned over by the Ed Walker trained Popmaster from stall number 4. And second home was Al Dari from 7, and third home Al Mabir from stall number 3. This is a career best effort from Popmaster under conditions that definitely suited, and this was a slightly stronger run race than we had with Movie Maker. Movie Maker's finishing speed percentage 104.64. This was 102.51, so they've gone a little bit harder in this race than they did in the 2-year-old contest, but nonetheless it was not a furious gallop. I think jockeys very wary of conditions. Let's just pick out the principles at this point of the race. Popmaster's a little bit keen. Here's Aldari seeing an awful lot of daylight, and Almabir just a little bit ahead of the two that finish in front of him, sat there tracking the pace, which was just ordinary really. Why did Popmaster win? Well, he just handled conditions better, I think, than his rivals. Almabir and Aldari have got confirmed form in these sorts of conditions, but they couldn't pick up like Popmaster did, and it was a very good effort. Ed Walker's had his horses in good form for a very long time, and Popmaster fired a final 3 furlongs of 37.48. That's important because the next best in the race, 37.81. So through those final 3 furlongs, he's stronger than all of his rivals, and he quickens up quite well from there in behind. You can see Aldari's in trouble towards the stand side, Almabir's in trouble, and Popmaster's just got to look for a little bit of running room. Ross Coakley is the man on board. Now let's pick out one other horse in this race. This is Rodder Barlow and Jamie Spencer. The winner's about to launch a challenge here, and Spencer's going to come towards the stand side. And Rodder Barlow shapes really well according to the course track sectionals. He was fastest in the 5th furlong, 12.11, and the 6th furlong, 11.9. But he had too much to do, and he got to them. It looked like he might go and win, and then he flattened out. But 2 of those final 3 furlongs, he was fastest, Rodder Barlow. So that's a bit of a sectional upgrade as far as he's concerned, I think. He's done pretty well from the position that he was in. In these types of conditions, it's hard to make up ground, and he did his best according to the sectionals, but he wasn't quite good enough. And it was Popmaster who just seemed to relish conditions better than others. Look at Aldari in the Shadwell colours. He was a real disappointment. He ran in the Sussex at Goodwood behind Paddington. He loves cutting the ground. He's had a bit of a truncated career, and he might just not be as good as he used to be. Who knows? He might bounce back. Almabir, it was a good enough run from him. He's an honest horse, and he and Popmaster are entered in the same race going forward. They're entered in a Heritage Handicap at Ascot on the 7th of October, and Popmaster's got a really good record at Ascot. He goes well there, and Almabir. Likewise, if the ground stays like it is at the moment, then he might have a say in that Heritage Handicap at Ascot. But it's a career best from this horse, Popmaster. Connections absolutely delighted. Lawrence Bellman welcoming his horse back into the winner's enclosure, and all roads probably now will lead to that Ascot Handicap. Well, we enjoyed some really good racing from Ayr last week. It was the Ayr Gold Cup meeting, and there were lots of interesting performances that I could have highlighted. But here's the Saturday card and the winning times. They weren't too bad at all. A lot of people were saying there's going to be an awful lot of rain and it's going to be really soft ground. Well, those times suggested it wasn't really. Good to soft probably is the right description. Maybe just a tad quicker than that, looking at all of those times. Significantly won the big one, the Ayr Gold Cup for the Camacho team. That was a good time, 1:10.77. Over 6 furlongs. But I want to concentrate on Royal Rhyme, who won the 150 mile-and-a-quarter Doonside Cup in a good time, 2 minutes 6.26 for 10 furlongs. That's not bad at all. And Royal Rhyme went off the 6-5 favourite for Carl Burke and Clifford Lee. Pride of America was 5-2. Helvic Dream was a Group 1 winner in his own right, 9-2 from 8-1, the Irish Raider. Luckin Brew was 10-1. It was 25s. And bigger the rest. And I think in Royal Rhyme we have a very good winner, and I think he's a Group 1 horse, and it'll be fascinating to see where they go with him, but the Champion Stakes might be where they want to go. After this, stall 5, Pride of America second from 4, Helvic Dream third from stall number 1. Now when I watched this first time round, I felt that the pace setter Pride of America went off too hard, established a big advantage, ignored by the other jockeys, and was then reeled in late on by a very good horse in Royal Rhyme. But if you look at the figures, that is not the case. This horse in front just went an even gallop, and they let Pride of America go. They seeded Pride of America 4-5 lengths, maybe a little bit more. The runner-up's finishing speed percentage, now that's the horse in front, was 102.53. So he was still running at the finish. He finished off 2.5% quicker than he ran the rest of the race. So what Royal Rhyme did is run down a horse who's rated evenly in front and was not stopping. Now visually it looked like, yeah, he was tying up. He did hang a little bit to his left. Looked like he was getting tired. And yes, he was slowing down, but he wasn't slowing down that significantly. There's only one horse that can get to him, and that's Royal Rhyme, who sits in second at this stage. Helvic Dream doesn't ever land a blow, and he's a Tattersall's Gold Cup winner in the past. So Royal Rhyme, in finishing off with a finishing speed percentage of 106.83 in an evenly run race, has quickened, and he's come home just under 7% quicker than he ran the rest of the race. And that speed has allowed him to run down a horse who's been rated evenly in front and wasn't stopping. So this is a tremendous effort from that Royal Rhyme. Fastest final 3 furlongs, 35.45. And these are the taking numbers. This is what he did. He was the fastest through each of the final 3 furlongs, through each of those individual furlongs. He went through 11.41, 11.40, and then a 12.64 as he got tired in the final furlong. But 2 sub 11.5 second furlongs to run down Pride of America, who wasn't stopping. That is some effort from Royal Rhyme, and he really is going places, this fella. He was impressive when he won at Goodwood on his previous start. He's won 4 races now in his career. The slight caveat about him going into Group 1 company is that all of his wins have come with soft in the description of the going. He wants some ease in the ground. He just got away with it here at Ayr. They were probably hoping it would be a little bit softer than it actually was in the end, but he's handled it perfectly well, and he's run down a horse who got a lead and was hard to catch. Nothing else got near catching Pride of America. It was only Royal Rhyme who could get to him, because he was the only horse who could quicken sharply through 2 consecutive furlongs. Nothing else could. Helvic Dream's running on quite well into 3rd place, but he's not really closing the gap on Pride of America, who I'll say again was not really stopping. He was still running at the line, even if he was hanging to his left, just in behind the winner in the closing stages. This is a most taking performance from a very progressive horse, and I think he's a Group 1 horse now. I know that he was put up by Tom Seagal at around about 66 to 1 for the Champion Stakes a few weeks ago, and well, Tom's not going to be too far wrong, because this fella with that performance has definitely launched himself into the Group 1 picture. Newbury staged a couple of good days racing last week. Saturday was Mill Reef Day. That was won by Array. That's what we're going to have a look at in a moment. But look at these times, though. Very slow indeed. Look, not so sleepy. 14.99 outside over a mile and 5 furlongs. What a tremendous horse he's been for Hughie Morrison. And lots of other really slow times on that caption there. And that's because the ground was heavy. I'm not too sure where the soft in places was. I'd say that's heavy ground. And the Mill Reef won by Array. It's been won by some good horses in the past. Not so sure this was as good a renewal as we've seen in recent years, but nonetheless it is worthy of review. 7 to 4 Array, Mr Sketch 5 to 2, Hartem 5 to 1, 7 questions 7s, it was 8s that matters most, and Spanish Phoenix 14 to 1 the outsider. So let's have a look at what happened out there. Array came from stall 2. This is for the Andrew Balding team. Oisin Murphy on board. Mr Sketch jumped out of stall number 3, and 7 questions from stall 8. And it was Array who just prevailed here, only just, in a blanket finish, plenty of them involved late on. And perhaps we could mark up Mr Sketch because of what he did according to the course track sectionals. So not a vintage Mill Reef, but an interesting performance. Array taken almost to the front at this stage, down towards the middle of the track. You've got Hartem bowling along here for the informed Richard Hannon. There's the winner with the sheepskin noseband on, and you've got to the runner-up just in there at this stage. How was the race run? Not too bad actually. They went a good even gallop really, 101.95 your finishing speed percentage. So they've just gone even really, almost even 12-second furlongs, and 101.95 is probably what you'd expect in the conditions over this sort of trip. Winner always prominent, and basically he just keeps going. If you look at the sectionals, he doesn't really quicken up in any marked way. He just keeps rolling. He's carrying his head a little bit to his left. The unlucky horse is probably in behind here, the runner-up. I think you're going to have to mark up Mr Sketch. Visually it looked like he was just a little bit unlucky for a stride or two. If you look at the sectionals, Mr Sketch was fastest in the 4th furlong. That was 11.84, and the 5th furlong 12.19. You can see the 3rd horse trying to get between horses. That's 7 questions. Just gets stopped a little bit, loses a little bit of momentum. Mr. Sketch's final 3 furlongs was quicker than Array, just quicker, 37.71 versus 37.9. And look at them, they all finish in a heap. A little bit of trouble in running in behind, and it was all a bit messy really, but Array did keep going. He wanted to carry his head to one side, but he kept going. 7 Questions, the horse that gets hampered in between rivals. And Mr. Sketch on the sectionals did really well with his quickest final 3 furlongs in the field. But Array knuckled down and Mr. Sketch couldn't get past. Maybe this was just a race where being handy and being prominent and being able to dictate the fractions was the most important thing, because nothing could really quicken up under the conditions. There you can see the 3rd horse, bit unlucky. He's got out now and he's running on okay in the closing stages. He did get a tough trip. You can see there, stripe cap. He's looking for a bit of room. He gives a nudge to Mr. Sketch. That makes him a little bit unlucky as well. And Array just gallops on and wins this quite nicely. Don't know where they'll go with him. Not sure this is up to sort of Group 1 form. But nonetheless, it's a nice winner for the Andrew Balding team. Array toughing it out there in quite attritional conditions. Let's go to the Curragh on Saturday. There's a couple of good cards Saturday and Sunday at the Curragh, but I want to have a look at a couple of races from Saturday. We'll start by having a look at Deep 1 in the 2:30, winning that mile contest in 1:41.42, 4.82 outside, and we'll move on to one look a little bit later on. This is the Beresford then. It's a Group 2. It's over a mile. And Navy Seal, who'd been very raw and green when he won last time up, was ridden by Frankie Dettori and was the 11-4 favourite. Deep 1 was 3-1. A horse who featured on The Verdict when he ran on Irish Champions weekend, and he was given a sectional upgrade there. It's 3-1 Stromberg, and Grosvenor Square 4 is 11-2 and bigger the bottom 2. It's Deep 1 who prevails then, and does so in good style. This is a horse who's got bags and bags of speed. He's just got away with a mile here, as far as I'm concerned. To beat Chief Little Rock, who came from stall 3, Grosvenor Square from 1, and Navy Seal from 2. Still raw, really. He finished in 4th place. He's one to look out for next season over a fair bit further. Now here, Deep 1, Billy Lee for Paddy Toomey is going to be taken to the front and will dominate this race from the front. Now, when he ran last time at Leopardstown, he put up a very eye-catching performance. He made up a lot of ground in the middle of the race when cruising on the bridle, and then had nothing left in the closing stages there. But it was an eye-catching effort. Here they decided to just let him bowl along, and to a degree he's got his own way out in front, but he does settle the race with a good turn of foot. The finishing speed percentage, 101.21, so he's not gone mad in front, Billy Lee. He's been able to save a little bit on this free-going sort. He's a horse blessed with loads and loads of speed. And this was enterprising tactics from the team. They held him up last time, as I mentioned, but this time they decided to be very positive on him. And their tactics that often work at the Curragh, making the running, certainly on the round course, is often the thing to do. Now, he's going to seal this race. He looks like he could be in trouble as the Ballydoyle battalions descend on him, but his 6th furlong of 11.75 was where he quickened, and he was able to just hold on thereafter. He was getting very tired in the closing stages, and the final 3 furlongs, well, he wasn't the fastest. He was 37.58. Grosvenor Square, who's running on and will finish in 3rd place, he was the fastest in the final 3 furlongs, and he looks like a thorough stayer for next season. I think I'll be quite keen on Grosvenor Square next year, because he's by Galileo out of a Cape Cross mare. He's going to want further, and he could be a pretty useful 3-year-old. Deep 1 has won this because he's very talented, he's got loads of speed, he was able to establish an advantage, and he was able to quicken. He quickened fastest through that 6th furlong. Nothing quickened like he did an 11.75. He's then hanging on a little bit. He's definitely on fumes in the closing stages. And this suggests to me that perhaps he'll be better at shorter than a mile. He'll certainly go no further, I don't think. It may be that a mile will be fine for him next year if he strengthens up a little bit. That might be what Paddy Toomey wants to do with him, try and turn him into a Guineas horse. It might just be, though, that he's a horse with a load of speed. He's flashed that before in his career. He did at Leopardstown last time. He did here at the Curragh. So maybe a drop back in trip next year might see him to better effect. It will be interesting to see what they want to do with him. The one thing we can say about him is that he's beaten some really good Ballydoyle horses in behind him. Grosvenor Square, a future stayer, horse for next year over staying trips. Don't give up on Navy Seal either. He still looked raw and green, and he'll be better next year. Over further as well, but it was Deep One's day this time. I referred at the top of the show to a freakish performance, and this is it. In the Goffs Million, the Curragh, on Saturday, the richest 2-year-old race in Europe. It was over 7 furlongs. The going was yielding to soft, and the winner was One Look, who had been pretty warm in the market, 5s from 8s, but had been supported at bigger prices than that. The favourite was Cherry Blossom, who wasn't unsupported at even money, and it was 7s, Mission to Moon, My Mate Alfie 8s, and 11 to 1, and bigger the rest. Now, just visually, this is incredibly eye-catching what One Look does, but the figures back up what you see with your eyes. It's an incredible performance, this. It is freakishly good. This filly, on debut, winning such a competitive race against horses who've got really good form, horses who are battle-hardened, who know more about the game than she does, and have got really good form to their names, and she annihilates them. She absolutely thrashes them, and visually you could not fail to be really impressed with what she did here, beating Cherry Blossom into second. My Mate Alfie filled out third spot. No draw bias here, they all came out the middle, even though stall 17 beat 18, but stall 3 was back in third place. We'll pick her out there. One Look, there's Cherry Blossom, and My Mate Alfie over towards the far side. Why was this so good? Well, on debut, you don't expect a horse to be able to do this, to travel in amongst other horses, to weave their way through, to know enough to get through those other horses and then quicken. And what she did was she showed a devastating turn of foot. 5th furlong 11.95. She's in behind the strong travelling Cherry Blossom, who you think's going to win now. 6th furlong 11.59. Here she goes. Whoosh. 11.59 through the 6th furlong. She's done that with ease. 2 really quick furlongs to surge her clear of some good horses in behind on debut. Wildly impressive under Billy Lee for Paddy Toomey, completing a double after Deep One's all the way success earlier in the card. This was a real freakish performance from this filly. Look at her pulling up. She hasn't done a tap by the looks of things, but what she has got is a sharp turn of foot. Her finishing speed percentage 105.52. So she's finished off 5.5 seconds quicker in the final couple of furlongs than she ran the rest of the race. That's because it wasn't a furiously run race. It was okay. It was just a modest gallop, I'd say, and she was a bit keen early on, and so was Cherry Blossom. But that keenness was no problem at all, and she was able to really quicken up. Get these final 3 furlong figures. Final 3 furlongs. One Look, 36.32. Cherry Blossom, 37.61. Now, if you crunch those numbers on yielding to soft ground, you'll find out that One Look was 7 lengths, about 7 lengths better, quicker than Cherry Blossom through the final 3 furlongs. That is how good she was when she quickened up there at the Curragh. She's generally around about 10 to 1 for the 1,000 guineas. They're going to go softly with her, probably not race her again this season. She was around about 20 to 1 for the guineas, but obviously backed after that. She's a very smart filly. Will she be able to back it up? Is it just a freakish performance and she'll never be able to do it again? A la perhaps Mum's Tipple at York. Remember what she did at York when she absolutely bolted up under Ryan Moore for the Hannon team? Maybe. But if it's not a freak one-off, then she is a very, very good horse and one to keep a close eye on going forward. She holds an entry in the Irish 1,000 guineas at this stage. Tremendous stuff in the finale. What a turn of foot that filly's got, and to show it on debut is something else. It really is. So I hope you've enjoyed the verdict this week. We've seen some nice performances. Royal Rhyme, that was tremendous stuff from him at Ayr in the Doonside Cut. He's a very good horse indeed, make no mistake. And One Look there in the race that we've just seen, well, you could hardly believe your eyes when you watched it, but if you looked at the course track sectionals on the Racing TV website, then your eyes need to be believed, because she is very good indeed. So that's it for this week's edition. And remember the Verdict Extra column that I'll be putting up on the website for you over the next couple of days. Do have a look at that. Some more horses to keep a close eye on in terms of sectionals and what they achieved last week. But for now, it's bye from me. See you next time.
Subscribe to Racing TV's YouTube channel now to watch more great races like this.